Nice guys really do have it bad these days, don't they? You don't get the girl, you get walked all over, you trade what you want for what other people want, which makes you resentful. You avoid standing up for yourself, which means you get passed over for raises and promotions at work. You carry everyone else's problems above yours, and that gives you anxiety. And ultimately, you end up unfulfilled because all your effort goes into other people, while everything that you want gets pushed to the side. Meanwhile, you got these jerks on the other side of this equation who are probably awful human beings with anger issues and low emotional intelligence who constantly use people and treat them like crap, and yet somehow they seemingly get the girl, they get the promotion, they get the opportunity. But how? Why isn't being a nice guy rewarded in the same way? Is the saying true? Do nice guys really finish last? Well, if you're a nice guy, modern society or social media will try to convince you that you have to become that jerk to get what you want out of life. And I'm here to say that that is not true. That is myth. That is propaganda, a result of a selfish society. So no, nice guys do not have to finish last. You could be a nice guy and still finish first. You just have to steal one quality from the jerks of this world. And that one quality is being disagreeable. You see, the problem with nice guys is that you don't want to disagree with people because you're upholding this picture perfect image of who you think people should be. So you keep your thoughts to yourself out of fear of being perceived a certain negative way. But if people knew what you were really thinking, they would look at you a bit different because you're not this moral saint people paint you to be. You're not the jerk, but you're not a saint. You and I know that. Other people just don't. And how could they? You don't express your disagreeable thoughts, so people can't judge you. They don't know you. And things are just easier that way. So you choose not to disagree with people because you're afraid of the consequences if you do. You're afraid of confrontation. You're afraid of people not liking you. You're afraid of looking like the bad guy. Or at the very least, you're afraid of having to deal with the social problems that come with you letting those thoughts out. So you play it safe. You say yes when you want to say no. You smile and nod even when you disagree. You add little qualifiers to every statement so you don't come off too harsh. And eventually, people stop respecting you. They interrupt you when you talk. They exclude you from things. You become forgettable. And that is what causes nice guys to finish last. And let me be clear about what finishing last actually means. Finishing last just means you don't get what you want out of life. Because in reality, there is no first, second, or third. You either get what you want or you don't. And for the jerks of this world, although they have a host of other qualities that make them unlikable, they get what they want because they use their disagreeableness to reject the things that they don't want. They prioritize their needs over others. This is a quality we can add to ourselves without becoming a jerk. We can learn to be disagreeable, or in other words, we can learn to be less passive in our lives. And the first step to doing this is to ask yourself, what the hell do you actually want? I'm serious, like not what your parents want, not what your boss wants, not what the girl you're trying to impress wants. What do you want? And you answer that by not only looking inwards, but looking forward to becoming the most ideal version of yourself. What does peak you want? What does the meta version of yourself want? What is he like? How do you become him? And don't censor it. Don't pretend it has to be some noble pursuit. If you want to get ripped, you want to make a ton of money, you want to have a beautiful girlfriend, sure, those things can be seen as shallow, but if that's what you want, that's what you want. Just like if you want to live a modest life, help your community, and write novels on the side, amazing. Just make sure it's what you truly want. No matter how shallow or deep it is, feel genuinely passionate about reaching that goal. Because in case nobody has ever told you this, I will tell you right now. As long as you are a good person, you deserve to get what you want out of life, whatever that is. So you should be looking at everything that is trying to stop that ideal version of your life from coming true as an enemy and rejecting it by being disagreeable and setting boundaries. Oftentimes, you'll even find that being disagreeable gets you more respect. Because here's the thing, people actually trust you more when you're disagreeable. Because that's real, that's honest. They know you're not just being a yes man. Think about it. Would you trust like a game reviewer or a movie reviewer if they always sided with the public opinion? I wouldn't. I mean, eventually you start to question their integrity and you think that they have some kind of ulterior motive. You being overly agreeable or passive is the same thing. And that's why your opinion and what you want will never be respected. Nice guys who are too agreeable finish last because they never put their foot down and stand up for what they want. And I get it, because that is the easier and more natural thing for a nice guy to do. Being disagreeable is very difficult because you don't live in a perfect world where if you tell someone no for a good reason, they just get over it and automatically respect you for it. No, people are flawed. And some people will hold that against you and maybe not even like you anymore because you told them no. The real challenge is being okay living in that truth, knowing that you said no for your own well-being and that it was the right choice. The way I personally reason it with myself is by saying that the people who disagree with you standing up for yourself are the same people who are trying to use you in the first place. So who cares if they're upset that they couldn't use you? I mean, of course, if this is an authority figure that changes things, and sometimes you do need to play the game, I really do understand that. I would just hope that you are at least trying to stand up for yourself in certain situations where you know you can. And it may sound crazy, but being disagreeable about the right things can actually help you in dating as well. Because, some people just call this having standards. If you go on a date and she's saying things that don't align with your morals or your goals, you could just cut things off in a nice way. No more making excuses for people and thinking you can convince them to see things from your point of view. Just just nip it in the bud, maybe challenge their thinking and see if you two really don't see eye to eye. Because if you don't, then you just prevented yourself some potential heartbreak down the road. And of course, there's balance to this. You can't just be disagreeable to any and everything that your partner wants. But ideally, being upfront about what you want and what is non-negotiable for you, you prevent yourself from being in a situation where a few months down the line, you're learning that that thing that you fundamentally disagreed on date number 2 is still a problem. And plus, a lot of women just love a principled man. Someone who is going to stand up for himself and others when they see something they believe is wrong. So to me, being less passive is definitely a good quality to have in relationships. And it's an even bigger deal when it comes to your work life and success. I'll give you an example from my personal life. I've been working for this company for like 5-6 years, right? And I'm good at my job, like really good at my job. But they also ask a lot from me because of it. And in the past, I would let them do it because I was afraid of what would happen if I stood up for myself, whether that be getting fired or scolded. But eventually I had enough and I decided that today was the day I was going to make a stand for myself. I don't know what got into me, but I was pissed. I was so clearly seeing that the vision for my ideal future was being stifled by this job. I made up my mind that this company has taken so much from me in terms of my time and the impact on my relationships because of it, that they were going to pay me what they owe me. So I went into a meeting and I asked for more than a 20% raise. And for those of you that don't know, a 20% raise is an insane thing to ask for. But I did it because I got to my breaking point, I had this angry resolve about myself that despite what my friends, family, and even my fiance thought, I was going to make this job respect me in terms of financial compensation, or I would walk away because it was just not aligning for my vision of what my quality of life should be. But ultimately, I did not get that 20% raise increase, but I did get 18% and a whole lot more respect for myself. Because you know how much I would have gotten if I didn't ask? Not 18%. In fact, in previous jobs that I've had, I remember back when I was working in a fitness center, I was getting paid $11 an hour, and every year I would get an 11-cent raise. I was not going to have that cycle repeat itself. So I decided this version of me respects himself way too much to agree with what they're offering me. So I ended up getting that 18% because I was disagreeable and standing on something I felt passionately about. Because that's exactly what asking for a raise is. It's you saying that you disagree with the amount of money you're being paid. And fun fact, it also is a big reason women get paid less. They've done studies on this that show that women literally just don't ask for raises. Men ask for more raises so they get more money. I know there's a lot of nuance to that conversation and that we're talking about men here, but that is just something to think about because the whole closed mouths don't get fed thing, that couldn't be more true for nice guys. If you don't say what you want, how is anyone gonna know? And yes, that gives people the opportunity to shoot down what you want, but it's better to play the game than to watch. So my goal in telling you this is not to convince you to stop being nice. I know that the world needs more nice people. Trust me, I live in South Florida. My goal is to convince you that you need to expand your definition of what being a nice guy is. This notion that nice people shouldn't change is flawed because in life, you need to change. You are not born with a superior base model of morals that never needs to be upgraded. No, you have to learn, you have to change, and you have to grow to even continue being a nice person. Because otherwise, you just become this stubborn and eventually bitter person who doesn't get off their high horse. You could be kind, compassionate, respectful, and still be someone who stands up for themselves, and that is the version of a nice guy that actually wins. You don't have to trade away your values or become some selfish jerk to do it. You just need to stop being passive and stop hiding behind niceness and start valuing yourself the same way you value the feelings of everybody else. So yeah, stop letting people tell you that nice guys finish last. Nice guys can finish first. It's just about not putting everyone else's needs ahead of yours and standing up for yourself to get what you want out of life. And you do that by not letting people impede on your goals for their benefit. The younger me never stood up for himself, like ever. And I think he really would have needed to hear this message. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. My name is Jay Hopes. And if you want more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. And if not, then I don't know. Tell me how much you hated this video in the comments. Peace.